shape, the body, the head, the big head, the little arms, spinny arms. I've got one or two shots there with it actually holding like a case, a sample case. And I think that was, he came deliberately in front to just say, because that's before I had a laptop computer, and I thought I'll get a laptop. And it's just like, it's like a case. And I wonder if it's like hinting, you know, you have to get a laptop. This is how I felt. This is something, it was hinting like you need a laptop to do what you want for further.
What's the importance of a computer laptop?
So you can take it around, photographs, show other people, slideshow presentation, things like that. You can bring up pictures and put them up there, transfer everything onto film like this. And I've got so much stuff now put onto pictures from the laptop, and then bring it down here and show people down the forest, and just to explain and try and show people what different things we do get down here.
First met them when I started talking that weird language.
What language is this?
I talk a really weird language. I've been told that's old, really, really old, ancient Egyptian, but when they talk to me, I can answer them. And I met them, three of them coming down in a light, and that was right where nobody could get to, and yet the forest opened up, and I could go through. But as soon as I'd gone through, the forest closed itself again, and the people who were with me couldn't get through. And they had to come all the way round a track to find me, and there I was standing there talking to them.
Did they see them?
They saw the light and they saw me talking to them, and then the men...
Did they see the
No.
ETs in the light?
No.
They just saw a light beam?
They saw the light beam and they heard me talking to them. And when I finished talking to them, what they actually did see was a light go up from the forest, up into the sky and whiz over the sea. They actually did see that.
And this has been going on since you've been 5?
Since I was 5 years old.
What do you feel your purpose is by investigating this incident? And
It's not just this incident, is it?
It's an ongoing thing.
I've been doing it all my life, ever since I grew up. When I was 5, when I was 9, when I was 16, when I was 12, when I was 9 years old, I fell off a bus and hit my head, and I went unconscious, and I saw some little tiny rubbery type things with big black eyes in my bedroom. There was 3 of them, kept coming sitting on my bed, and I've basically grown up with them, so that's my life.
I had funny feelings when I was a child as well. I mean, I had like something used to visit in the bedroom, and I used to be these little creatures. They weren't humans, but they used to come round the bed, and I used to feel really frozen. You know, you couldn't move, and I could feel them. They studying, and they come and looking over you and studying you. You felt that they weren't meaning no harm to you, but you just felt a bit frightened that, you know, I can't move. That's the worrying bit. But I used to feel them coming up on the bed, and there's this pressure coming up onto your front, and you feel like they're walking on the bed, and you feel them actually nearly feel like it's staring you in the face. But it just...
are they different or the same to what you're seeing here?
On that sort of principle, yeah, on that same sort of thing, yes. They look to be very sort of quite small, but not...
Have you been able to establish from them that they had any connection with the objects of the Bentwaters incident? The Woodbridge Base incident?
They seem to be leading us
Well, that goes into
things, and they seem to be like... They've got their purpose. They seem to be leading us in directions. We're not sure where we're going, but then they lead you on to another point. There's like little bits of jigsaw, more pieces added to it that are easier to understand what it is.
So, I mean, did the objects that are they able to verify any of the information with regard to what's happened during the 1980s incident?
only one.
I think we were led.
Which one?
The original one in Colonel Holt's area.
Yeah, and
That's the only one.
And also Area 1, I felt we got led there.
Area
There was
1.
something led us there,
Yeah,
because
something led us there.
even in Area 1, Brenda said she saw an ET run
We
across
saw 2, didn't we?
across the track. They were actually there, show themselves, and they were just like a glimpse, but they seem to be leading us into these
Well, Mason and I
positions.
saw one, didn't we? Because Mason saw it.
Mm.
And I turned around
Mason's
and
the dog.
Mason's my dog. and we were there, and there was one about this high, about 3 foot high. That was a little one dressed in white. And then another time when we were doing
What kind of dress was it?
it was just like little baby grows, like little
Like
all
a
one in
cloak,
suit.
or was it
No,
like a
no,
cloak
it was
or a
an
gown?
all-in-one suit.
So like jumpsuit type
Yeah,
thing?
little jumpsuit type
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Yeah. With a sort of like little collar, you know, little all-worn collar around here. Well, the whole thing was all in one. But then we were down there another night, and we were going to do a meditation, weren't there? And Terry, another gentleman who come with us, him and I saw some about 5 foot to 6 foot one. They're very skinny, and they were going along the back of the trees around there, and we both saw them.
Here?
And
Or
no,
was-
they're only up in our area 1. But they
Well,
were
let's go
going
to
along-
area 1.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Yeah. That's the craft I saw when I was 5 years old, and it hovered above me, and I looked up, and then I didn't know that was a craft until later, but all I could see was like bicycle spokes underneath it. So when I looked up, it looked like bicycle spokes. But I called Mum, and Mum came to the door, and as she came to the door, it just went psh, and it had gone. But that was my
What
first.
sort of size was it?
It was huge. It was. We lived on a farm, and we had acres and acres of ground. And I was in the garden playing with my rabbits, and it came over, and it took up the whole. It was just huge. I suppose as a child, you know, looking up, that would look huge, but I can't really say because it was massive. All I was worried about was that it was going to hit Mum's linen line, because she had a great big huge linen line, and that Dad had done her a prompt and that had gone right up, and I thought it was coming to hit that. But it just completely disappeared when she came and whooshed over the trees.
Explain.
Okay, in 1980, when this incident happened, the forest was different to this. All these trees were planted after the 1987 hurricane. All the way up here, the track you see up here now, there wasn't a track. It was just all trees, and you just walk through the trees. They were very tall pine trees, and you just, as I say, you just walk through the trees. But this track was made in the end of 1980, and you come up here now, and the dog walker walked up here with his dog, and if we go through here, this is the way where he saw the lights in the forest, and this is also the area of where Colonel Holt saw the lights in the forest. So we come along here, and don't forget we have to walk through the pine trees. You just have to imagine the pine trees being here, really tall, thin ones. And there was also bramble bushes and gorse bushes here.
And didn't that dog walker gentleman, he walked into the trees and crouched and hid and watched these...
Well, he stood behind the trees.
he watched
yeah.
these servicemen when they covered up this object. It was a
Yeah,
sort
but
of-
he wouldn't be coming along this track. He would be coming in from further
Yeah.
down there.
Well, that's interesting.
Because the actual, when the dog walker came, he would have come in from the track there, and he would have seen the lights from over there, and the men who were trying to cover up the object, he would have seen them here. Down there he hid behind a tree, and he was watching them, and the object was here in a crater, and the firemen were covering it over with a tarpaulin.
And there was another one searching around the ground for
Yeah, there's
something.
another one searching around on the ground for
Yeah.
something that looks as though something had come off of the object. This is also the area where Colonel Holt marked an X on the map for Dot and I, where Colonel Holt's son Chuck brought us, and where Steve Roberts brought us, one of the security witnesses. They all brought us to this place, and this is where Colonel Holt said that he saw the lights. He followed them through the forest, and this is where the lights were. Now it seemed really a coincidence that first the dog walker see an object in the ground here, which he describes as a silver object, maybe fell off of an aircraft or something, and then this is the exact same area that 3 people bring us to. Colonel Holt puts it on a map, across on the map, that he saw the lights. And there's nothing grown in this area ever since. You can see it's very sparse. Up until a year ago, this was all dead. The whole thing was dead. And now we've got a few stinger nettles growing here. But the other weird thing here is, about 5-6 years ago, I done a lecture in here. And we had about 30-40 people in here, maybe more, but there was about 34 people in this little space. And I stood just here, and another friend of mine stood here, and everybody stood over there. And we were taking photos, and we'd been into this area loads of times, and there never ever was a tree here. And that night we come and done the lecture, there was a tree. No, sorry, there wasn't a tree. There was not a tree because I stood here. And then about a week later I brought a party of people in there, and there was a tree about 6 foot high stood here. And I went to the forestry commission place, Richard, because he was on the walk with us, and I said to him about the tree, and he came and had a look, and he said, yeah, that's a 6-year-old tree. And I said, but Richard, there's never been a tree there. There wasn't a tree the other night because we were taking photos. And he said, well, the tree is there now. And he said, are you saying that the ETs planted it? And I said, but the tree weren't there the other night because we all stood there. We noticed it. Anyway, that was that. He went off, and then we came back again about 2 weeks later, and the tree wasn't there. That had gone, hadn't it? That had gone. There wasn't a tree here.
No mark on the ground.
No mark or anything. No, the tree weren't there. That had just completely gone.
And you do have those photographs, do you?
Yeah, we've got the photographs of the tree here and the tree not being here, yeah. And the funny thing is, when the tree was here, my dog was standing beside the tree, and he'd got a great big huge white light on his head. And another friend of ours who come down, she was standing here, and she's got an orange light all the way around her.
Do you have pictures of that?
Yes, I do. Yeah, I do have pictures of it. Yeah, we took photographs of it. But it was just weird. So I went back to the forestry and I told him that the tree had gone, and he said, you've pulled it up. I said, no, I haven't. Come and have a look. So we came and had a look again, and there was nowhere where a tree could have been. So we don't know how the tree got here or how it went or anything. It just mysterious.
Did you get any implications or ideas from your ETs or your
No,
space friends?
no. But we do know they play tricks on us occasionally, don't they? We did go to one place.
What kind of tricks?
Well, they just put stones and then tell us to go to places and find stones, and when we come to find stones, they've got symbols on them. We get lost in the forest. We can walk in a forest, and then they'll just close the forest off so we can't get out. We 4 hours one night, weren't we? Me, Pete and 3 friends, we got trapped in a forest for 4 hours and we couldn't find a way out. We'd been in there loads of times, and that's where Pete and I had lost 2.5 hours, hadn't we?
Yeah.
We went in there and we literally did lose 2.5 hours.
Do you feel you've been abducted by them or taken
I've
to
been
a different
abducted
place?
nearly all my life, ever since I was 5 years old. But yes, we are taking places, because when Woody, an American serviceman, come down here with me one night, we lost 4 hours, and that was just ridiculous. And we see a white light over us and a helicopter chasing it and little lights going into the white light, and he never would come down anymore, and he'd been coming down on a regular basis until then. But after that he wouldn't come down anymore.
It seems to me that the lighthouse which is obviously the explanation for the entire incident, seems to be moving around an awful lot.
Well, they renew its batteries, don't they?
Yeah.
They renew its batteries, and then I think they just...
Well, we done a cartoon and drawn a cartoon of the lighthouse flying over the forest. And we had Colonel Holt, and Brenda sent one to Colonel Holt, and he thought it was very amusing with the lighthouse beaming down lights. And there's a couple of American servicemen with the torches, and they're saying, look, there's a light beaming down to the ground.
That's right,
And these little ETs are in this lighthouse waving down to them.
So the message from the ETs and the Greys is what?
We get a lot of messages, actually, different messages. We get messages all about the world, what's happening in the world. We got messages about...
Are those correct?
Yes.
Do they actually tie up?
Yes, they
Can you
do,
give any
and
examples?
we always get them several weeks, or don't we? I got the...
My symbols did. They came through about 3 or 4 days, and
That's right.
3 or 4 days, and then the food, and after that we come across these symbols on the ground, and this on the stone. So I saw these symbols in where we went into this part of the forest. They came through as clear as anything on it. Like green backgrounds, these orange symbols. And there was 8 of them, and I wrote them down on a piece of paper because I could just draw them down as I could see them on a piece of paper. And like I say, 3 or 4 days later, we went over to we call the seat area, which is just over through there. And this stone, Brenda said, "Oh look, there's a stone down here," and it had the symbols on it, the same symbols what I had in this meditation. So there's something trying to tell us something, and it's.
But they've always told us to keep our group small, only 4, not to use lights. They hate us using torches and that, and to keep our groups small because they hate large groups.
And the other very important thing that come through, don't they? Say, "Look, and you will see."
Yeah.
And that means not always by looking with your eyes, but looking with the mind. Look, and you will see.
Like
it's,
right
it's
brain sensing? Like
It's like you've got to focus. You've got to focus yourself. Or else if you don't, you won't see. You've got to be very.
We see when we
It's going
stand
cold
there.
here. It's going cold.
When
It's
we
getting cold.
when we stand,
Brenda?
yeah, I can feel it. When we stand there
Something
and
like
there's something about, and it's dark, you see beautiful colours, absolutely exquisite colours, purple and blues and greens, and you feel them sort of touching you and around you. But we don't really have them. We have the little girl, don't we?
Yeah.
We have the little girl over by the seats. Her name is Sophia, and she's a little French girl. She came about 3 years ago, didn't she? And she was with us, and she took us round the forest and showed us different things around the forest.
this is a girl who
She's a little spirit girl. She got killed over here. Yeah, it's a long, sad story actually, but she told us the whole story, didn't she?
Yeah, and you got
But she taught me a lot of French songs, didn't she? And you taped them.
have you not helped her try to move on, or does she like
She's
being-
moved on now because somebody else came down here and moved her on. But she liked it here. She loved playing with Mason, my dog. She had doggies back home, and she absolutely loved it here. She was with her daddy, her nana, her grandmother, and gave me all their names, their ages, where they come from, and the whole story. And then we had somebody come down here, and because we tell people these stories, next thing we knew they'd sent her home. But she was happy here.
Well, that's good. Okay.
One thing I forgot to tell you is that when the big bird drops its capsule, its film capsule into the sea, that's got explosive devices on board. So when that actually hit the water, they go off and the parachute come out, and that's to stop the capsule going down under the water, so the helicopter doesn't know where they are. Not only that, that's got a blinking light which blinks on and off until the helicopter can find it. It's a warning signal to show the helicopter or the aircraft which come and pick it up where it is. And thinking about what Colonel Holt said when he looked out at the river, he said there's a light blinking on and off all the time, and they said that was the light boy out there, didn't they? The light ship boy out there.
Channel boy in that river. Isn't it?
Yeah, in the river. But I mean, it could have been that it was the big bird capsule flashing on and off, because it flashes on and off until something comes and rescues it. So it could have been that.
Well,
Food for thought.
They said to me, try to find out about the Big Bird 16, and you might get your answer.
Big Bird 16, is that the 16th flight, or?
No, Big Bird 16 is the name of the satellite.
Does that mean it has 16 canisters, or?
Well, it carries 6 canisters actually, and it drops the 6 canisters off within 8 months.
So obviously they must drop off at a safe zone. In fact, they have to drop it off here, must have been.
Yes. It was decommissioned in June 1981. It was decommissioned. It came out of decommission. It came out of service.
Well, satellites, there was only 6 canisters. It wouldn't have lasted long.
Well, it lasts 8 months. Then they dropped the canisters off in safe zones. So I don't know what happened, whether that got damaged or what happened here, why it dropped it off in the sea here, unless of course they always do drop it off here and we've never noticed before.
Unless maybe they needed some data in that particular orbit pretty quickly, and that was the reason.
Yeah, that's true. Yes.
I mean, I've certainly never seen any kind of a scenario like that in James Bond movies.
No, but apparently that's in Jane's aircraft book.
Oh, so you can look it up?
I think so, yeah. I think you can look it up on the internet too, under Big Bird 16.
You were referring to jellyfish type creatures.
Yes, we've had them down here. When we were on a Skywatch one night, and we all came down here, and then we walked back again. As we walked back, there was one come across the track just down there, and it filled the whole track up. It was huge. And then the gentleman, there's a gentleman who comes down here and he brings his bed, and if he gets tired he lays on his bed and goes to sleep. And as we walked up there, he shouted to us, he said, "Did you see that? Did you see that?" And we go, "Yeah." And he go, "That's like a jellyfish, weren't it?" And we said, "Yes." And that was just up there. And then another night,
The giant
when we
spider things?
pardon?
Do you see the giant octopusy
Yes,
things?
we've had them too. Yeah, and we've had this like spiders with the tentacles hanging down. We've had them. And one night when we were at the lid, we had ETs all around here. There was about 8 of them just all around here. And I went up the track because I said they were calling me, didn't I, Pete? And I said, they're calling me, I've got to go. And I left this lid, went running up there.
Yeah.
Terry and Don come running after me. Pete went back to get his tape recorder, and he come running after me, and they stopped me going up there. And when I got to there, there was a jellyfish thing came down and actually landed on top of my head. And I went,
One
oh
tentacle
my
or the whole
God.
thing?
No, the whole thing landed. It just
So it's like a
fell
small-
like that
yeah.
on top of my head. And I pulled it off and I
You flicked
threw
towards-
it.
That
And
hit
you
me.
say, yeah.
That hit me in the face, and it felt like it hit me in like wet sand, and it just dropped off me on the
Yeah.
ground.
And
That was
I-
weird. It just hit me, and then it just dropped off the ground. It just fell to bits and went on the ground. So, and it's like wet sand.
Yeah,
Sort
it
of
did.
feeling.
And my
I
hair
thought, what was that?
was all soggy like jelly. That was horrible, wasn't it? And for days after, my hair was just like a baby's hair. That was fine. I couldn't do anything with it. It just stood out, it stood up, and I just could not do anything with it. That was so fine.
About the same area, just down that track, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I videoed a night shot, and something come across the camera, and it was like a squid type thing whizzing across through and it had like
Oh, yeah,
tentacles,
it
didn't
did,
it?
yeah, it
and
did.
that shape, and it was just going across,
Yeah.
and it was like sort of like a squiddy little tentacles going whizzing
Yeah.
across like that in the camera. I was
Yeah.
at the camera.
Why do you think the 8 Greys warned you about the jellyfish? Are they bad news or what?
No, they just tell us what's down here, basically, don't they? They sort of tell us what craft's about and what's going on. And I mean, when Pete and I were down there with another Peter one night about 3 years ago, we then got to leave, and I always say, hang on, Pete, I just want to look up the track before we go. I just got to say goodbye. And on this night, you then got to get in the car.
Yeah, I just got
and
the
I
car.
looked up the track, and I went, hey, Pete,
Dragged me
quick,
out the
quick.
car.
I literally dragged him by your hair or something.
And you grabbed hold and
Like-
pulled me out of the car. Quick, have a look at this.
and there was this massive, great big huge
Green orb.
green orb, and
Massive.
it took up the whole track. It was massive, and there was 5 little ETs in it, 5 little people
And
in it.
it was like a
you
big-
could see them.
Big round, big
Yeah.
sphere, and that seemed to be coming, glowing green, fluorescent green, coming towards us up the end of the road, and it was heading up there, and there was these figures in it, weren't
Yeah,
there?
there's 5 figures
And
in
it
it.
was shimmering as it come up.
And I went and grabbed the other bloke in the other car, the other Pete, and I went, quick, come look at this, come look at this. And he'd go, what? And he was asleep.
What's
By
that?
the time we got there, it'd gone,
Missed it,
hadn't it?
you missed it.
Yeah, it'd gone.
But that's fantastic. That just,
But we've had loads and loads of things like that happen up this track. This is where 2 of the guys, Terry and Don, saw the UFOs, not last Saturday, the Saturday before. They saw them coming down here.
What sort of UFO?
And they were like disc shape, and they were red. And they came up the track, over the barrier down there, and they came over top of their car, and then they planned going like that in front of their car, doing like figure 8, and then they just whizzed off over towards the base.
We had a BBC film crew filming here that one evening, doing it was a documentary type thing, wasn't it? And we were walking back up to the base there, and straight in front of us, me and Brenda saw it. There was
Yeah.
this a bright
Massive one.
red light. It started
Yeah.
small,
It
and it
went-
just went, exploded,
Yeah.
bigger and bigger, and the same colour kept there, and it just got bigger and bigger, and it filled the sky, massive. It just went. And the crimson red, lovely colour.
Beautiful. We've seen that 2 or 3 times.
It just
Yeah.
like that went so big and then just appeared like that. But it kept the same colour all the way through as it expanded.
And we said to the
That's
TV guy,
amazing. Did you see that?
did you see that? He go, no, I was looking for my mobile phone.
Yeah, he had his head down. He was facing that way in the van.
He was, but he said, no, he's not, I was looking for my mobile phone. But then we had a great big huge orange light come up here back in June 2000. It came up here, and there was 5 of us standing at the barrier, and we saw that. And it started off like about the size of a peach, and then got to about the size of an orange, and it got absolutely huge. And it had a black thing across it, like a belt or something across it, but it had a bit out of the bottom of it like that. And it came up here, and when it got to here, it just whisked off down that track, and then following it was another orange light. And I said to the guys up there, I said, come on, let's go down the track. No, they said, I said, come on, you sky watchers, or what? That's what we're here for. Anyway, we did. We walked down the track, and as we walked down, we saw a triangle of all different colours down the bottom of the track. Behind us was like shapeshifters. We had all these little lights following us, and they were changing shape as they were behind us. And then we went up to Colonel Holt's area, where we've just come from, and one of the girls with us, me and her, saw an orange light hanging over top of the area where we just came from, Colonel Holt's area. And then on the way home that night, about 4 o'clock in the morning, I was going along the Wantleston Road to go home, and I saw a great big huge orange light coming across the fields, like the light we saw here. There was 2 deer jumped over top of the fence, over top of the hedge, and it stood right in front of me. I slammed my brakes on because I thought I was going to hit them, and when I looked, there was a light beaming down from the orange light, and there was 2 deer coming across the field, and the orange light was chasing these deer across the field. Next thing I knew, I'd lost an hour, and I got home. That was an hour later. It only took me 15 minutes to get home from here. But the next day, when I got up, my eyes were red, my face had a rash on it, and the dog wouldn't go out, because I had the dog with me, and he was going mad in the car. But the next day, he wouldn't go out even in the daylight.
And we had that here, just at a lid. We would come there one night with Brenda, and we looked back, and the sky watchers are all up there yapping at the gate.
Yeah.
And it was a cloudy day. It was very cloudy, sort of misty when it's cloudy. And there was 2 bright an orb came out the clouds, came through the cloud, done a sort of like an S shape, and then went back up into the sky again through the clouds.
Yeah.
And we watched that position again. About another 15 minutes, the same thing happened again. The same occurrence. It happened. This silver ball came down through the clouds and went back up again. Twice we saw that.
And they didn't even see it, did they?
No. And another night I was up the road looking over the Woodbridge Base, and I could see these orange round orb light, and it seemed to be rotating in itself, and it's a bit like something that blows a soapy bubble, and that movement of the colours, this orange was rotating in itself, very bright brown orb. Then another one appeared next door to it, and then a third one, and there were 3 of them there, seemed to be rotating just over in the sky. And then all of a sudden I was with Brenda, I was watching, and then they just one switched off, and they just disappeared, like switching the telly off. It disappeared like that and gone. But they were there stationary for a long while, and I started the video because we borrowed your son's old video camera.
Yeah.
I tried to get it on video because it didn't pick up light very well, because it was a daytime thing, and it was very bit ancient really. So I did try filming. I was filming through the fence, but it didn't come out, did it?
No.
It wouldn't pick it up. But it was so fantastic to just watch that. But we would have done
But see, this is our usual nights down here. When we're down here, this is a usual
unexpected
night for
thing
us,
just
you know.
happened, don't know. We don't come here looking for it. It just happens. And
we're just walking down here, just chatting or something. You feel them around you. You feel the energies around you and everything. And then, you know, I don't know, because we see them with the naked eye, don't we? A lot of the times they just come on, and you know, we just see them with the naked eye.
But so you feel the presence around you, you feel the coldness, because when you do get these contacts down here, there's things come around us, and you could be hot, like today, it's very hot, quite warm, and you're warm, then all of a sudden you can feel there's something coming around you, and just like you open the fridge door and the cold air hits you, you feel your legs start tingling, your back and your neck all sort of tingling, and the cold comes right through you, just woof. Wafts through you. Then perhaps just straight after that, there's a stone that will come down beside you, dunk, like there's a presence, just showing you a gift. I find that time after time, there's this coldness comes around you. You know there's something around. They come and they caress you. This energy comes around and caresses you. You can feel it coming right around you.
Loved, don't you?
You feel loved. You feel exhilarated. Really, it comes around you and sort of like, whoa. I feel my neck now. I feel a bit cold, but it just, whoa, you know, it comes around you and you feel good, and you send out positive energy. You know. Yeah, I can feel you, and then it just things just happen around.
About 3 weeks ago, on a Wednesday, me, you and Fatali were down here, and we were down at the crossroads, weren't we?
Oh, that's right.
And you and Fatali were having a drink, weren't you, and something to eat. This was
Yes.
quite late, about 12:30, weren't it, in the morning?
Yeah.
And I just left you and went walking off, and the whole forest, didn't it, lit up?
Lit up. You said,
And
what
I
was
thought-
that?
And
My
I thought
torch,
that was
didn't you?
them
No, it wasn't
flashing
me.
a torch, and I
No.
said, what'd you do that for? And he said, I didn't do
the
anything.
torch was-
Fatali said, it weren't me. And he was sitting down eating, and Fatali was having a drink. And I got my camera out and I took a photo, and I got this magnificent orb. I shone it to Larry earlier, weren't I?
Yeah.
And you could see the orb coming along the photograph, and then the other ones which I took, it came down, and then another one that was beautiful, it just went up, didn't it? That massive
Like a-
round orb, but it lit up the whole forest. You know, and that's what we get. We've had orbs over there lighting up the forest, haven't we? When we've walked along, we've had pure golden orbs, beautiful,
And
beautiful
the craft
golden
that came
orbs.
over these trees that night, we were standing at the gate up there, the fence, up near the road, and this noise we heard, this. It's a clear, crystal night, stars are out, no wind at all. You could hear a pin drop, and this noise you could hear, and it continued, and it seemed to be getting nearer and nearer. Then it stopped, There was a lull, everything just went quiet. Then there was a flash through the forest. This noise started up again. The noise, you could hear it coming towards you, nearer and nearer, and the tops of the pine trees, which
Bent over,
was start to sway. They were going. The wind was coming around the tops of them. There's something was coming over. This noise was coming right over us, and the wind coming around us. It circled around. The wind was whirling around us. And we're on the road, standing on the road, and this watched this noise. Like I wanted to see something, I couldn't. It was all it was just stars. But this noise went right over the top of us, went over the folly house, over the oak tree. It made the oak tree swirl, and the noise continued over to Woodbridge Base.
but there was nothing there.
And continued over. That was just fascinating, and I wished I had my a night shot or something going. I might have picked something up. I think.
But other people have actually heard that and seen that happen. So it's not just us.
Do you think this is the cause of the trees being cut that you've been researching?
Well, there's definitely there's. I think whatever did come through the trees and caused the damage weren't observed physically. You couldn't see them. They may have a cloaking device, or they could come through unseen. So they have a physical effect because they've ground into trees. I found loads of trees that have been marked in a northeasterly direction.
Is this only at Woodbridge, or?
No, unfortunately, I've been.
all over the
It
place.
started at Bentwater. It started here, and then I went to Bentwaters. The same sort of marks. Further afield as Thetford, even further afield as Scotland. I found the same marks on trees. When I've been on holiday up there, I had a look, and it seems like it's across the whole country. We had some sort of mass invasion.
In people's gardens.
Yeah, people's gardens in towns.
Yeah.
You know, trees have been hit and knocked, and parks in Ipswich I found them on the Chantry Park. There's a tree there on its own. No other trees are rubbed against it. This is what the forestry told me. He said that's just where the trees are rubbed in the forest, the wind. And I've got them on the parks. Same big gouges, grind marks, even low down at knee level. I've seen them where they hit the trees. Spun anti-clockwise, ground into the trees, up and down, and a lot of the time they've been deliberately pressing on the trees, pushing on the trees, deliberately trying to cause as much destruction as possible. It seemed like they wanted to try and push trees over. They were coming at a set level, and they just continued in that direction and just ploughed on through where they could go through. They didn't go over trees, they just went round them or hit them and going up them. But
Did that happen at the same time? Is it unique?
this seems to be something more likely. This damage all seemed to be taken into account with the 1987 hurricane. I think this seems to the destruction that this type of objects would have done would not have been for 1980. I don't think it would have caused more destruction, and it would be more widespread. So the only time I can tie it to is 1987, because I had a sample taken of a tree and I took it into the museum, Ipswich Museum. I had a professional person give me some advice on it, and I said, when was this tree killed, damaged? And I said, I know how old a tree is because there's a sample that had been felled. I knew the date. He gave me, and about 40 years the tree was old. And I went and worked it back, and I said, well, hang on a minute. I went and got in contact with another lady who said, to get the true what I got of the tree, you've got to go from the stump right down low, because this was up 30 or 40 foot up. So I went back to where this tree was felled, and I found the stump. I knew where it was, and it's actually 46 years old this tree was. And they worked it. They said this occurred around the time. And when I worked it back, that was near enough to 87. That was on about the time 87 hurricane. This is when there's a lot of destruction, the damage caused to this tree. So that was quite interesting.
Well, some people suggest that hurricane may have been, artificial.
Could be.
But
I mean,
anyway,
the air was very
that's-
warm because I was out that early morning taking my dad down to the river at Woodbridge. The wind was very strong. I went to the Woodbridge school where I worked, checked on the grounds, and the air was very warm. It blew across there, and the trees were coming down left, right and centre. But the interesting thing after this storm, the 2 days after, the trees, all the leaves on the trees, because it still had leaves on the trees, they had gone brown and scorched. Everywhere had been scorched, like the heat or some sort. I was putting it down to salt water coming from the sea being picked up, and the salt, caused it to scorch. But found a lot of the trees are sick still now everywhere, been heated some sort. The bark is peeling off the pine trees. Oak trees are dead around the countryside. Tops are burnt and killed of the oak trees. They're not grown again. The same trees are dead everywhere. There's no more dying. And I went to the forestry at the time, Richard Davis. I said, what about the oak trees that are dead as well? I said, the tops are all burnt out and killed and sick. And he said, well, must be a beetle. He said, there's beetles that go around that kills the oak trees. And I thought, well, that's going around every year. Why aren't there more oak trees dying? There's no more dying, no more being affected. And the same trees are still standing today with the same marks, dead, same scrape marks. Trees are sick, poor, heated, flaking. Some trees are really sick and poor, and we've got some around the forest, perhaps you might be able to show you later.
And that's when most of the forest was devastated then, or
When it
was
most devastated,
Yeah.
yes. And I've actually found photographs with the 1987 hurricane with the pines bad down, and some trees have got these grind marks on them there. I could see them still standing, which we didn't get pushed over or didn't get blown over. It's hard to say that all got pushed over by mechanically or by something. It may have been the wind as well. But there's paths been cut through the forest. I've had some pictures from the forestry. They gave me some downloaded from their website of all the forestry trees, and you can see paths cutting through the forest. Some coming in at an angle that way, and some going that way. So it's like the wind doesn't just change direction like that and come that way. This seems like there's been a formation of something going through the trees, and certain trees are standing all the time. It's not just one constant, it seems like just paths and sways going through. Fascinating. And the destruction, you find is actually deep grind marks. There's nothing else can do them except something spinning. There's got to be something quite big. But I found where they've gone between trees, which are no more than 2 metres or 6 foot across, these discs. And I've seen them where they've pushed through the trees and gone through to the tops of the trees. And you see them mark the side of the trees, and you see them pushed up through and grazed all the bark off and taken all the tops of the trees as well. So they're carried on through. They're going in a fixed direction, and they seem to be just deliberately carrying on. But most of the trees that you see, the pines are most noticeable because they're straight. The oak trees you'll see damage, but you can't see so clearly, but you do see grind marks in oak bits of trees as well where they've hit them. But that's just so fascinating. But I'm just saying, who's covering what up? Because people should be told, is there radiation in these trees? They look sick, they look poor. I've got radiation on some of these other trees which are marked badly, and I picked them up with a Geiger counter. So there's a lot of questions to be answered. Why are they keeping it a secret from us?
Were you able to determine what kind of radiation?
Well, I picked up gamma radiation, with the Geiger counter.
Yeah.
And that's very noticeable on a lot of these damaged trees. And also, if you get near to some of these, you get headaches, feeling very strong. And
well,
fascinating.
Describe.
Well, these sort of typical marks you get on these trees, they're really high up. Some of them, they are rotating sort of like a disc. These craft type thing, they spin and grind parts of the bark away and go up, knocking branches up as they go. And there's lots of these trees, they're all done about the same time, all trying to heal over. There's big gouges, and the trees and branches are all being swiped off. The crafts are hidden in a northeasterly direction, so they'll be in that direction straight ahead here. And they just seem to be pushing on trees and deliberately smashing branches off and everything else. And some of these trees have been pushed right over, but these are the ones that have survived. And there's no way any trees will be hit by other trees that do that sort of damage all the time. It's definitely spin marks, and definitely been heated as well. They look quite stick and poor.
Something has hit the top of that tree.
Yeah, and then you go across to the other one. There's the top of the other one over here. If you swing over to
the left.
Yeah, with the one with the little top of the tree over that way, on that one on the right.
So I can't
see some gouges on the branches, and up right at the top there's completely swiped off and then dead as well. So. But there's a lot more better ones further on. We've got some. Right, this is coming into Area 1, we class as Area 1. These trees were a massive pine trees. They were 40 years, something like that. Yeah, planted in 1925, some might be about that time, 1930s. And still some pine trees you can still see in the background where it was silhouetting against back.
So they survived the Great Storm.
They survived the Great Storm, and so did Area 1, all here. None of these trees were actually flattened. They were standing, and we actually found the landing sites in these trees, amongst these trees. We walked into here. We
are standing at Area 1?
Not now. Area 1's in there. We're going to go in there. This is the entrance into the forest. So we've got to imagine this has been quite tall trees, very big and mature pine trees.
Okay, let's go.
Right.
Area 1 without the trees.
Do you want? I'll just bring my bag up, right? I think you've got Brenda.
What?
And you put these
I'll put them in there to where it is. That's not far out where they were.
So this is the actual landing site
Yes,
of
the craft.
a craft. Is this the craft you're suggesting
This
is...
is the one that's in Holt's tape describes of the point 1. Let's make this point 1, which is nearest to Woodbridge base. Then point 2. Let's make this point 3. So this is 2 and 3. It says between 2 and 3 was a pine tree, and it had a scrapes. This landing site had a scrape coming down the tree.
Is that the radioactive one?
This is the radioactive one, and I picked up here the most highest radiation here on the Geiger counter, which is on this part of the tree, facing into the landing site. And I dare say they're still there now if you went now with a Geiger counter. But you can still pick up the landing fig mark with some rods, just ordinary divining rods. They'll cross.
So how on earth do you get
I was
a
standing
reference?
on this log when I saw the little ET come past. Pete was going to take a photograph of me and Mason standing there, and I suddenly, I was going like this, and I suddenly went like that, and I saw the little ET walk from over there and come here. I went, Pete, quick, look, an ET. And we went down there and it just disappeared. It completely
Yeah,
disappeared.
when I was filming Bases 2, one of the people I was with, who was a bit of a weird guy, never seen him before, he was in the forest with us, with another perceptive person, and he saw greys in the forest in daylight.
Yeah, this was daylight. This is broad daylight. And Terry and I and Pete were doing a meditation here one night, and Terry and I saw 2 greys walk over there. They were quite tall and skinny, but they were walking along over
They're
there.
the brown greys?
Pardon?
The brownish greys?
Yeah, the greyish greys. Yeah, sort of greyish. Yeah.
Ash grey like this?
Yeah.
I'll give you some. All right, come back here. Can you see, if I point to there's a stump here just in front of these logs?
Yeah.
That's the one just down here in front of Brenda here.
Yeah.
Now you go in a line from that, you've got the tree where Ron's standing here in the picture,
Yeah.
is the one there. Then beyond that is another stump, which is just a bit beyond that is a stump cut off there. That's the 3rd tree.
Okay.
Then across this side there's some more stumps being cut off, which are down along here, along the edge here on this side, which is along the edge there. I think you'll be able to see them along here somewhere, just running along there. But this, and you can see the trees in the background, the ones in the background are there now. And this is just after it had been cut down, the forest had been cut down. And I'll just get you through to area. This is one that was taken at the time, in 1980. Same area. That's the stump which is visible in the foreground over there. Then we had 3 stakes defining the landing feet,
Which you doused, is that correct?
which I've doused and picked up, and they're actually they crossed. Took soil samples, and the soil samples they seem to be having a radiation from them, and the actual they were coming picked up on the Geiger counter. The Geiger counter that I've done on the tree facing the landing site, it actually went off the needle. The actual, I know it wasn't correctly calibrated, but it still picked up radiation and it went off the needle. So goodness knows.
Was that the time you got the helicopters?
Yes, they seemed to be very inquisitive of what we're doing here, and I was going around with the Geiger counter, and then sheepishly like you'd be careful, and then I was taking them when it was going around. I thought, oh well, bugger, I want to get this information, so I just went and carried on with it. I thought that doesn't matter. But this definitely is the place with the light coming through. We had a track running out just beside that tree. The other side of that.
This is where the heavy tire marks led out from the forest?
Led out from the forest, leading away. Still can see some depression somewhere along here. We can This is one of the tread marks here where it would have come through. This is the depression that goes through and carries on in that direction. Goes out to the forest, a gap in the forest. There was like a track going out through here.
To the north gate.
Well, that goes out to the track one, but it's heading in the westerly direction.
And of course the base is just there.
The base is just over there, and then also you've got just straight through there with that big clump of bushes on the other side. Just the end of the pine trees this side would be Eastgate, just through there. So the patrols from Eastgate would see lights from the forest
Around here.
around here. And there's definitely a heavy track marks leading out through this forest.
Last words?
Right, this is what's left of Area 1. As you see, the background is the same in the book and the picture, which is in this picture. I've got a picture here with the trees as it's been cut down and the background. The interesting thing about in the original photograph, one of the pictures here shows the light hall, which would have been just behind the camera and shining down at this angle, and it was illuminating the forest. So there was definitely light halls in here and they were functioning. And this is about the time when the policemen are here on site to look at the actual landing site, and the policeman was standing here looking about here, looking at one of the landing feet mark, looking down, and I think that was Mike Veron, was it? Mike Veron that was coming round. What's Mike?
Verona.
Mike Verona. Coming round the stake here, which he was just walking around about here, just sort of walking around. The other policeman stood there looking at that stake, and he was just coming around the back of this stake. You can see it in the picture. This is near the base. There was, in the Holt's tape, there was a sound of a bibbing vehicle when they were talking about the site, when there's point 1, point 2 here and point 3, and there's a tree between point 2 and 3. There was a vehicle bibbing in the background. They said they don't want them, can they so-and-so radio through, they want to come into the area. We don't want them in here at the moment. So and Brenda says that could have been that Barrows wanted to come in at that time. So that could have been Barrows in the vehicle. No, he was not allowed to come at the time. They were checking this place for radiation and what have you.
Okay, conclusions are what?
Conclusions here that definitely there was something landed, it was physical, there's physical evidence of something being actually driven away from the area as well, physical evidence of the tree being damaged, radiation where Brenda's standing, into the landing site, loads of radiation on the 3 landing points and the centre, slightly off centre there was a landing, and you pick them up on the divining rods and the guide counter. There was definitely a vehicle of some sort here, and it was taken away. It didn't take off again because there's some heavy tyre marks were leading from the area, and there was a tree just behind you, just beside your camera there, was being cut down to facilitate to taking this craft away. They must have loaded it onto low loader. There's another tree here I found had been cut off, and the rest of the trees have been left here, but they loaded it over, swung it away down through the trees and out on. They couldn't turn the vehicle, once they came in the forest, they couldn't turn the vehicle so long, and they didn't want to get stuck, and there's a track leading this way. They went through out, on track 1, back up, onto the road, down in Eastgate, through the Eastgate, and onto the base, and took it on the plane, took it away. The other 2 craft, and most probably there was one landing at the back gate further over here, he took off. They reckon he came this way, along the track, up here, went off into the sky, disappeared. And most probably the other one went back to wherever they came from, Germany, whatever. But this other one,
Relative to this position, where the TA guys?
the TA Army would have been over to the behind these tall trees you see in the background. You've got Brumsall Firing Range about 1.5 miles across that way, perhaps a mile. Over the other side there's the Brumsall Firing Range, and just adjacent to that you've got the perimeter fence running down inside the base, and there's the back gate, or the north gate as they call it, because it's on the northern side. And the TI Army said they saw something land just the other side of the back gate, near to the perimeter fence, about 50 yards from the perimeter fence,
and take off again.
And it took off again.
And that's where they found. You haven't been able to find its landing site.
Yes, they were picked up with the rods, so packed up where they're landing. There's three indentations there. The ground is bare, not grown anything, and it fits the description of what I've been told from the TA man when it was in the TA Army. He said that just about 50 yards in from the fence, there's a clearing there, so you can't miss it. And there's still something there now.
But that's too close to the perimeter to go with, You know, without...
It was landing near to the back gate, so important personnel must have gone out to he hanged on, landed there to see if that could be fixed. It couldn't be fixed, perhaps, and then he took off. But they must have gone over and
So you're suggesting that the object had communication with
yes,
the base
definitely.
commander, so it was an advanced object which had the capacity to communicate effectively with human beings.
Well, whatever it was seemed to be on that level. It seemed to be very. They seemed to be in contact with it, and they knew what they needed to try and repair.
So we
the
have an
craft.
object which they had advanced warning was going to land and require emergency assistance.
Yes, they knew that was coming in, and the plane already had taken off from Germany apparently, because it was 2 hours after the incident happened. This plane must have been on its way, so they already had a feeling that they're going to land anyway, so they knew it was coming in.
So what's your final conclusion? What is it? Alien, man-made, advanced?
Well, it's advanced technology craft. It's some sort of advanced technology craft. I think it was in the Americans. I think it was Americans because they said there's no defence significance. Where I think they already knew about it. They knew who it was and where it come from.
Brenda?
I think something happened down here. I generally believe it does. I do, but I think the only people who'll ever know are the people who are actually involved.
What's your guess? What's your intuitive guess?
I honestly think there was a craft around, mainly because of what we've seen between 1980 and now, and we've seen all the craft around. So I do think there was a spacecraft here, and I do think that the guys on the base did see the spacecraft one night.
Was it a human spacecraft or was it a non-terrestrially derived
No,
craft?
I believe it was a spacecraft with space coming from space people.
Connected with the beings that you see here?
Yes, I believe it was connected with the beings that we see here, yeah.
Have they been able to tell you anything about it?
No, we haven't really asked. I mean, every time we get contact with them, they're talking about world affairs and what happened in the world and that.
Okay, thank you very much. Happy days.
Is that thunder?
Yes, no, coming up.
Oh, shit.
Thunder coming up.
One thing I will say to you, yeah, well, it's just be torrential storms tonight, isn't it?
It's coming up.
One thing I will say to you when you... I got that on camera.
Okay, 1 second. How many people killed themselves? What happened?
Well, I know one. My dad found a serviceman. He hung himself down the river at Deben, just down at Kyson near Woodbridge, and he hung himself with a piece of cord and stood on a bike and then jumped off. And there's a piece in the Anglian afterwards saying about a serviceman being on drug charges, and he'd been, I think, on sort of like probation type thing, but he's done himself in for no reason.
Shot himself?
No, Brenda knows about.
That was a different one. That was a
He
different
shot
one who
himself.
shot himself. There
Yeah.
was a guy went back to the States, and when he got back to the States, he couldn't accept what he'd seen here and what had happened here, so he shot himself. I think Larry knows about that because I think that's in Larry's book.
Yeah.
There was another guy. He tried to get out of the Air Force. He tried to climb over the fence, but they found him.
Somebody was it Saxmundham, the fire? I thought it was flat fire.
Yeah, he had a flat fire.
There was some American died in that
Yeah.
about the same time. Major Moxon, there was a A-10 pilot. He went missing off the coast around the same time. So they never did find his body apparently, but I don't know. But there's a lot of mysterious sort of deaths and people. Didn't they? They had.
Yeah,
There's a lot of
They had
stress for
problems.
people to go
Had
through
problems,
for
mental
like
problems as
lifetime.
well about the
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
What about the mental asylum nearby? Was that not put on alert or something? To
No, as
receive
far as I know,
astronauts?
there was only Holsey Bay put on alert, and the High Point prison.
Was that in order to receive the astronauts?
Well, we
If necessary.
we don't know what that's put on, but everywhere was cleared for a big alert, and the prisons were put on alert. But nothing happened anyway, so the alert was called off.
Have you found out why they were put on alert?
Well,
Different.
no, I mean, we just thought it was something to do with the Cold War. And something was going to happen, and they knew something was going to happen, so they just had everywhere standing on alert in case they needed to take bodies and that in.